Emotions are just as infectious as diseases, and you need to eliminate them. That was one of the questions posed to me as I put up a poll the other day asking what you guys wanted to know or what you wanted us to answer in the Uncommon Man podcast, which we got to yesterday, but there are a few questions we didn't get to answer, and I thought out of respect for you guys giving your time and energy to submit those questions that I'd answer them here, so I hope you find them valuable. Welcome back, guys. My name is Harrison Orr. I am the host of the Be Better podcast, and I am an online men's coach who supports tired, burnt out, stressed out dads and business owners become their best self so they can have more energy, less stress, and just dominate life. We've already helped over 5,500 guys, so we know what we're talking about. So the other day, I put up this poll asking, what do you guys want us to know? What do you want us to answer, I should say, in our next episode of the Uncommon Man Project podcast? And we had some weird, some wonderful, some quite serious, some quite deep questions from you guys, which is super helpful. If you want to, go and check out that podcast. That's about to come out now soon. And if you're listening to this in the future, today is the 5th of September. So you'll be able to go and find that pretty easily. But one of the questions which I thought was quite deep that we didn't get to, which I wanted to cover here, is the notion that are emotions just as infectious as disease? And I thought about that, and it didn't even take me that long to come to that conclusion as to yes, 100%. When you think about it, I'll pre-frame this into when we talk about emotions, I would say that you go even one level deeper and it's more about energy, like an aura. Like when you're in the presence of someone that has a really strong aura, you can feel that difference without there being any verbal exchange. You can feel when you're in the presence of someone that is a high vibrational being, that is a get shit done kind of person that just lifts everyone up around them. You know, the kind of cliche of they walk into a room and everybody lights up, and they light everybody up, that kind of energy. But it also works on the flip side, right? You know, if you've got someone that's I refer to them as dementors, right? They just they're soul sucking. They suck the energy out of the room. They're always negative. They're always putting that damper on them. It's really hard to have a conversation with these people because they're always so negative. And it's not even just it's a neutral dialogue. It's always no, it's this way. It's the horrible. It's worst case scenario. And so from my personal experience, even if you're that ray of sunshine, even if you have the high vibrational energy, the positive emotions, all that good stuff, because that's just the kind of person you are, or you're just having a phenomenal day, that's just how you're feeling. Even if you have that strong willpower, if you spend enough time with those people, with those dementors, eventually that will bring you down. And so in short bursts, it's probably not going to affect you. But when you're living in the same household, maybe it's a roommate, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's, a sibling or someone else in your family, someone that you spend a lot of time with, if that person is one of those people, it can be very hard to separate yourself, to not let that emotion, that energy bleed into you and bring you down. It takes a lot of, practice and discipline in putting up those walls so that doesn't bring you down. And personally, that's something that I've had to develop, that wall in my journey as being a coach, because there are a lot of times in coaching where you're dealing with someone that's going through some pretty hectic stuff. Right? There's some pretty intense stuff going on in their life, and you're communicating with them on a regular basis. You're trying to help them, and it can be really easy if you're not, cautious, that then bleeds into you. That then takes over, takes some of your energy, takes some of your soul away from you and can dampen you down if you're not careful. I know I found myself in a space where, I'd be having a shower and some stress from a client would pop into my mind. I'd get off some client calls and I would be really frustrated. I'd get really short with people around me for no reason, because I allowed that energy to infiltrate my energy and affect me. And so if you're in that space where you're around a lot of negative people, look at what they serve in your life. obviously there's some situations where you can distance yourself, if they're friends or they're people in their a bit of a rough term, but like expendables, right? If you don't need them in your life, it's very easy to just put that distance in there and say, you know what, I'm only going to see this person once a month, or it's going to be, online catch-ups or whatever. You can put that distance in place, but it can be a lot harder, I should say, when it's someone closer to home, when it's a partner, when it's someone that you live in the same household with, maybe that you're related to or something like that. And that can be very difficult. And so, especially if that person isn't aware of that negativity, of that soul-sucking energy that they just become this vortex that just sucks the happiness and the positivity and the life out of everyone around them. It can be really difficult to have that kind of conversation without them taking it personally. But I definitely do believe that emotions, that energy is infectious. Anyone that meets me at the gym, at the yard where I coach 4 mornings a week, I pride myself on being one of the most energetic, one of the happiest people in that place, because I know that if I can bring that energy, then it's going to help to lift other people up, right? And I also love being that kind of person too. But you spend enough time with other people and they're going to bring you down. That old saying of you are the average of the top 5 people you spend your time with. If you spend your time with narcissists or pessimists or just negative people in general, like depressed people, down people, all that kind of stuff, then it's going to wear you down eventually. And it may not happen overnight, may not happen in a few days, few weeks, few months, but eventually you'll start to feel that shine go. You'll start to find yourself maybe a little bit more irritable than you did before, like snapping at things or just thinking, oh, what's the point? Fuck it, it's not going to work out, and just not even trying. And so if you start to find yourself in that position, look at who's influencing you. Look at where your energy is going. That energy that you did have, what are you doing differently that's taking that energy away, or that you're not doing that was providing you with that spark, that shine, that energy? Because that can be in a hard place, right? And I know I've had to have some tough conversations in the past with partners when they're just complaining a lot, right? And about valid things for sure, but it can be very it can wane on your mental state if you're already maybe tired or stressed, or you're dealing with stuff, and then someone is just complaining of they're not happy with the way that they look, or they're tired, or they're this, or they're that. And especially as guys, we want to go in, well, why don't you fucking do something about it? If you think you're fat, go to the gym. If you're tired, why don't you get better, like look after your sleep? Why don't you do that? But not everyone is focused on the solution. A lot of people just want to complain as well. So quick side step, life hack for that. If you're in a position where someone is saying some of those things, do not go straight into problem solving mode, because a lot of people do not want their problem solved, or they want them solved in a very particular way, which you are probably not equipped to do. So instead of jumping into problem solving mode, ask that person, do you want to vent or do you want a solution? Because a lot of people will feel better just by venting. That's all they want. They just want to talk about their problem, their issue, and that helps them. But you can also then set that boundary. Okay, cool. You've got 5 minutes. Talk as much shit as you want. But after that, no more complaining. No more of this, right? Because it drains on everybody else's energy. And if you bring your energy down, you jump in the hole with them, then you're no good to anybody. If someone's in that hole of lower vibrational energy, in pain, in discomfort, in just that lower state, you're no good jumping down there with them. You need to stay out of that hole and be able to reach down and pull them up, right? So you're helping that person up out of that hole, bringing them into a higher state so that they can feel better, so they can think clearer, so they can kind of take action or just do whatever. Cool? So I hope that's helpful. One of the other questions, or a few of the other questions, which are kind of all tied together, which might give you a bit of a backstory if you, haven't met me, aren't familiar with, my work or anything we do, and is around the coaching. First of all, how did I get into coaching? And so I never set out to be a coach per se. I left school, went into chefing because I loved cooking and figured, well, I can use it to travel. I want to go to do a season in Canada, and if I figured if I love what I do, then I can hack the poor pay and shit hours. Quite wrong about that when I realized that loving what you do doesn't really pay bills, and there's other consequences to that. But we live and we learn. So then I came across a guy by the name of James Kent who was talking about stress and the nervous system and its role on mental health, on physique, on performance, and all these things. And I'd never heard anyone talk about that stuff before. Like, everyone else was talking about different diets, different training protocols, or nootropics and biohacking and stuff like that, to a lesser degree back then. But like, no one was talking about the nervous system. And started following him. My wife booked a session with him, so I got to train with him face to face for my birthday. What was that? Maybe like 6 years ago now? 7 years, 6? Yeah, probably about 5-6 years ago now. And then ended up doing some online coaching with him, and like the difference was just massive. And so like I was always someone that prided myself, I should say, on being quite fit. But when I say that, like my marker, I guess, for health was your abs. If you've got abs, then you're fit. That's the marker of health. Like, I didn't consider sleep, I didn't consider stress, I didn't consider mental health, I didn't consider any of that. So I was sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, drinking 10 shots of coffee a day, stressed out of my eyeballs, my nervous system was absolutely fried, and I was having seizures about every 6 months quite consistently. And I had epilepsy, so stress, alcohol, sleep deprivation, all big triggers for me, but hadn't really come across the tools or even had the thought to kind of do much about it in that space before. And so I started working with him and his team, and then noticed a huge difference. Like, my mood was drastically better. My anxiety levels plummeted. My confidence levels went through the roof. Like, I was no longer angry, irritable, and frustrated all the time. I became more confident. I was able to talk to people, communicate better, not just with, general people, but also with my partner. Our relationship got so much better, and life just felt better. And that really motivated me. And it's from the point of, well, I consider myself like not even that bad. Like, I wasn't overweight. I didn't have any health issues per se. And I felt that difference. Like, imagine how different somebody that is 10, 20 kilos overweight, that does have, much more serious problems than I had, how different would their life be by this kind of protocol? And considering nobody else I saw at the time was talking about this. And so the opportunity came up to then, work with him. I was also doing, PT, face-to-face PT and group coaching, stuff like that at this stage. So, coaching wasn't new to me at that point, but guys, going online with it was. And so this was around the time of COVID as well. So, the cafes, the gyms were kind of closed down at that point, and this opportunity came up, and I took it, lent into it, and I've never looked back. And it's been 5 years now since I've gone online, and I've loved it. I've loved being able to help people in the way that I do, and the transformations, like the change, is just so much more fulfilling than anything I ever got with PT. Like, it's amazing to help someone lose a few kilos, to help someone, gain some muscle, get stronger, or get fitter, all that kind of stuff. Like, that stuff's amazing. But when you can talk to someone and they are able to come off their antidepressants or their anxiety medication because you've helped them to regulate their emotions, you've helped them to manage their stress, you've helped them to get better sleep, they can now communicate with their partner and talk about their feelings without feeling like they have to suppress everything and becoming angry, resentful, and like can't communicate that. And the difference that has in their life, and then their relationships and their marriage, and then also the relationship with their kids, and how different they are as a role model, as a father, as like all these things as a whole, like the ripple effects of that magnitude is so much more fulfilling for me. And that's what excites me, and what I guess inspires me to keep doing this, and what I love so much about this. And I guess that feeds into the second question there, that was like, how did you know coaching was the right path for you? I never really had that conscious thought, and never really knew it was the right path for me. A lot of my path, I guess, in life has been a an organic method up until this point. Like everything from obviously coming into the coaching, like that story I just told you, even with Primal Energies, I tried it for my own personal use and then just went down that rabbit hole of, cool, how do we grow it? How do you make a tincture? That's cool. Other people tried it. Man, this is awesome. Can you make more of it? Sure can. Selling it through Facebook Messenger. And then it's just, cool, how do you make a website? And you're growing it from that. And so none of what I've done at this point has felt, I guess, I don't want to say intentional, because I try to do everything with intention, but everything has kind of flowed organically, if that makes sense. And just being able to help people in that way, and just from that personal experience, how much it changed my life. I knew people that had more at stake, because at that time I wasn't married. When I first started this journey, I didn't have Jax, I didn't have kids or anything like that. So I realized that for the people that do have more at stake, the people that have been married, 10, 20 years and are still struggling to have that communication, the guys that do already have kids and families and are in that place where, they've got a lot more to lose, and that transformation can make a much bigger difference. Like that's worth a hell of a lot. And that's what excites me. That's what keeps me going in this space. And because I know it works, I know it can change people's lives. And that also answers the next question of, what do you get from coaching, non-financial, that makes you want to continue? Exactly that. And my mission hasn't changed since having Jax, but I guess the emphasis on it has really just been amplified, in the sense that it's not just about, for me, helping dads. Or helping men, I should say. It's about helping dads, because now, being a dad myself, I realize how much of what I do, how much of how I communicate, how I express myself, how I control myself, like with my own actions, with my wife Liv, with him, with the people around me and everything that I do, how much that influences and bleeds into him. Like how much he's going to see from me, learn from me, and then replicate and do all that stuff. And if we want to, I guess, have a better society, we're going to have a better generation of men. And that starts with the dads then being able to pass on those better lessons and be that better role model for their sons. Like we've got multiple generations of nice guys that have got us into the place where we are now, where people talk about, toxic masculinity, nice guy syndrome. Side note, if you don't know what I'm talking about by nice guy syndrome, go read the book, or at least check out the summary, No More Mr. Nice Guy. One of my favorite books to recommend to any guy that struggles to set boundaries or considers him a yes man and doesn't get what he wants. Highly, highly, highly recommend. It's going to hurt your ego, but if you can stomach that, it'll change your life. I promise you. And if we want to be able to change the next generation, then it's got to start with the dads. And then so part of my journey at the moment, my own transformation is, all right, I'm doing this for myself, but how do I share these lessons, these values, these ethics and this mission with my son? How do I bring him into this as well, so that he grows up with this being the norm, essentially, and having more guys do that? Like that's really driven, I guess, put my heart even deeper into this mission, into what we're doing. And then the next question, how did you know that your partner should be your partner? That's an interesting one. I guess it's an interesting one, because Liv and I have a unique journey, I guess. So we were friends first. We were friends for about 6 to 9 months, training together, hanging out together, doing all that fun stuff. And then we started dating. We dated for about, how long was it? I think it was about 9 months again. And then we broke up, went our ways for about almost a year, and then came back together. And when we came back together, it was a completely different relationship. I felt like I came back into that relationship as more of a man, being more decisive, knowing what I want, being ready for life. Whereas at the first stint of our relationship, I was very much a boy. I wasn't ready to, she wanted to move in mostly because it kind of made sense for her, because her lease was running up. She needed to move out, and we were staying together a lot of the time anyway. So like logistically, it kind of makes sense. But you know, when you're in that boy mind frame, it feels like a much bigger step, right? And some people might argue that it is, but you know, I wasn't ready, and I had not read No More Mr. Nice Guy by that point, so I wasn't able to communicate what I want. I wasn't very effective in doing that, and so we ended up ending that relationship. And then when we came back, there had to be that complete reset, that reset of, okay, what happened, what our past relationship was, that's not going to bleed into this. We're going to have 100% open and honest communication. We're going to be able to have hard conversations. We're going to be able to work on that together. But then also, not just right now. We're not just in this for, you know, a weekend of fun. Like, where do you want to go in life? Where do you see yourself in 10, 20 years? What's the kind of lifestyle you want to live? How many kids do you want to have? What do you want to be doing with your life? Like, you know, at the time she still is running her own business. And, you know, I've now come into running two of my own businesses as well. And so it was also not just where we are, but where do we want to grow together? And so from a lot of the people that I talk to, that's something that I think gets missed in, you know, finding that partner. Like, it's easy to find someone that you're compatible with now, but much harder to find someone that you'll be compatible with in 5, 10, 20 plus years. And so I think if you can find someone and have that discussion of like, where do you want to be? Like, what's the kind of lifestyle that you want to live? And then also being able to break that down, like, okay, I want to live that lifestyle too. And we're not just talking about fantasy lifestyle. Like, cool, I want to live in that kind of house, in that kind of location, with these kind of resources, all that stuff. Well, that's going to cost this amount of money. For us to have that amount of money, we're going to need to make this amount of money, which means that either our businesses need to get to this level, we need to have a job that pays this amount, or, you know, we need to make moves in that space. So we need to be pretty driven in that space. We need to back each other. And so that's going to come at a cost. To get to that place, it's going to cost time, it's going to cost energy, it's going to cost money, it's going to cost all those things. And so if you're with someone that is not on board with that, it can be really difficult, because most people will say like, of course, yeah, I want that kind of lifestyle, but only when it conveniences them. You know, you hear those people that have those partners that, you know, they want that money, they want that lifestyle, but they don't want you to work late. They don't want you to work, like, you know, as soon as you have to spend time away from them, as soon as you don't have the energy or the resources to give back to them right now, and it inconveniences them, then it's a no. And so, in my opinion, you need someone that has that ability to see into the future as well. It's not just about, cool, what about right now? But knowing, okay, if we sacrifice some of that time and some of those resources now, maybe we'll be more comfortable in the future. Like, we're striving for that bigger picture as well. And I know Alex Hormozy talks about it in a very business sense, but, you know, in his relationship with his partner Layla, he says that if it makes logical sense, then the relationship will last. If it's based on solely emotion, then emotions will fade. And I know, I think you listen to some of the scientists and the professionals out there, and they'll say, you know, love fades after about 14 to 16 months on average. You know, that's when a lot of people, that honeymoon phase kind of subsides, and then left thinking like, all those little things that, you know, used to excite you or used to like now kind of get under your skin, you just annoy you, or whatever else. And some people will disagree. Some people like, you know, 20 years in, like, cool, I'm just as in love with my partner as I was then, and all that kind of stuff. But from my observation, like, you know, we're only 5 years into our relationship now, only 2 and a bit years into marriage. But from my observation, you learn to love a different person, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to be the same person in 10, 20 years. If I'm the same person, then I will feel like I have failed. I will have failed Liv, I will have failed Jax, I will have failed myself, because I want to keep growing. I want to keep developing and changing and transforming, and all the stuff that we want to have, the business success, the lifestyle, like the networks, the connections, the relationships, all that stuff. I know that I need to be a different person to bring that into reality. And so that's why I emphasize having someone that you can grow with, not just who you like temporarily in this moment. Because if you can grow with that person, you don't need to grow necessarily in the same like specific direction. Like Liv isn't into as much of the personal development as I am, but she's still into bettering herself in her own way and into business and stuff like that. So she's still growing. She's not just sitting here happy with and content with who she is, right, like how she is right now, and content to stay this way forever. Like she's got that drive, and that's what I mean by that. And so I hope that was a bit of a longer answer than I was anticipating, but I hope that helps, that answer about how you find or how you know your partner should be your partner. And then the last question here was, apart from work and relationships, what inspires you? What inspires me? I guess I'm assuming that my son Jax comes under relationships there, but what inspires me is like the potential, right? Like, maybe it's ego, maybe it's delusion, maybe, whatever you want to call it, but like there's this part of me that I know is capable of more. Like I know that I'm not meant to live in this environment right now. I know that I'm not supposed to be in this same mental state, in this same being, on this same vibrational energy for forever. I know that there's more to me in whatever, I guess, endeavor that I want to put those resources into. Like I know that there's more there. And I guess testing that limit and finding what that brings, what I am capable of is what inspires me. And also just the people that I've been connected with along the way. Like, for example, a few years ago, I'll give you an example of this. So a few years ago, when times were getting pretty tough, I was doing the online coaching, and we had a face-to-face event down in Wollongong. Like one of the big clients, he owns a mining company down there, and we did a face-to-face event for them. So we did a face-to-face workshop, we did ice bars, we did some seminars, some lifting, all that cool stuff. And I was talking to the second in charge of the mining company down there, and he was saying some of the guys that come in, barely have any brain cells, like they've got no mining experience or anything. They come in and they were basically starting at like 150K. And I almost choked. Here I am, like at the time, making 60K doing this. And, I like to think that I have a couple more than, a few brain cells. So stepping into something like that wouldn't be hard. And I could over double, 150x my income. And so that was looking pretty tempting. And so I was literally talking about it with Liv. Cool, is this something that we could do? Could we do the week on, the FIFO kind of lifestyle together? How would this work logistically? All that stuff. And then, thought about it, sat with it for a little bit. And then I ended up thinking, like, you know what? Even if I had other opportunities to make more money, to do something else, I honestly don't think I would ever be able to have a team of people around me that pushes, that supports, but also challenges me to be better in what I have now with the other coaches and the people in my space right now. And talking to a lot of other people that just don't have that. And I obviously hadn't had this in life up until this point, and I recognized how rare that was. And so even if I was making more money, even if I had that stuff, I feel like that would be a huge hole to fill, that I it'd be a very tough time to fill that hole. And so obviously didn't end up going down that route, and here we are today. But that's one of the things that I guess inspires me to kind of keep going, is having that circle of people around me that are on their own pursuit as well, but also challenge me to be better. Like the more people you have around you that are challenging you to be better, but are also a little bit better than you as well. Like if you're the biggest fish in your pond and you've got no one to learn from, let go of your ego and go into a bigger pond. They'll just challenge you in the way that you think about stuff, in the language that you use, like literally in everything. And so it doesn't matter how good you are at any endeavor. And this is why I think coaching or having a mentor is so, so valuable, because it doesn't matter who you are. As a human being, we have emotional bias. Like, we have emotional biases to literally everything that we do in life. That's why we think the things we do, why we feel the things we feel, why like we are in the position that we are. And it's not to say any of that is right or wrong, like whatever, but there's going to be some of those biases that don't serve us in getting where we want to be. And so, like I said before, like I know that there's more potential to me. Like, the person that I'll be in like 5, 10, 20 years is going to be vastly different to who I am now. And so those emotional biases that I have now, they need to break. Then they need to be challenged for me to grow into that potential. And so I can't do that on my own. And I don't think anybody can. Like, I don't think anybody can separate themselves from their biases, from their perspective. Like, that would take a hell of a lot of work. So if you can find other people that support you, that still challenge you in that way and challenge some of those biases, those ways of thinking, so that you can get out of your own way and move forward a hell of a lot faster, then that can be its own inspiration, right? And also for me as well, I know it kind of comes under coaching, but when you're coaching people, when you're helping other people to be better, by nature you have to be doing that yourself. Otherwise, you're just incongruent, and that sucks. If you've ever felt incongruent with something, it's not a nice feeling. And so it's like being a fat PT telling someone how to get in shape. No one's going to listen to you, right? Even if you're the smartest guy in the room, no one's going to listen to you because you're overweight. You don't look the part. And so part of this space is also doing what you preach. So it's a never-ending self-development journey for me. And I love that. I acknowledge that there'll always be more potential there, but I'm excited to find out where that is. And so it's been a slightly longer podcast than usual. I hope this has been insightful for you. Probably not, the action steps that you're used to, but I hope it's been insightful. I hope this in some way inspires you or changes the way you think. But if there's something that I guess you'd like me to cover in future podcasts, you've got a question you'd love answered or covered, or a topic of any sort, please shoot me a message. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to check out the Uncommon Man Project, go check out our website, uncmp.com, or the Uncommon Man Project podcast on Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff, and you can listen to more of our stuff there. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next episode and have an incredible day. Don't be sorry, be better.